Hi, my name is Heather Smith and I am a woman in ministry. And for those of you who do not know, this can be a controversial topic and it has been one in my own life. I am a pastor in ministry. I'm ordained in the Presbyterian Church, currently in the PCUSA. I've only been ordained for about a year and a half, but I've been on a journey towards being ordained probably, I'll say I'm 36 right now, I'm probably starting even at 16. When I was 16, I had a pastor say to me, "You're going to be a pastor someday," and I thought, what? Women can do that? I didn't know that women could even be in ministry, and so when a pastor said that to me, I kind of thought it was a joke, and I took it as a joke and just kind of put it in my back pocket. When it ended up going off to college, and went to Whitworth College at that time, it's now a university, and even there I had professors who said to me, "You're going to be in ministry someday," and I said, "Yeah, great," and they said, "You should really go to seminary days," and I was like, "Seminary days? What's that?" Well, it's where you get to find about seminary and being a pastor. And once again, I thought, what? Me, a woman? I thought, no, that doesn't work. But I put that in my back pocket. While at Whitworth, I studied in theology and desired to pursue a career in ministry. And so you'll probably say, what? That sounds weird. But I thought, no, I'm going to work with the church, work with kids, work with women, but not be ordained into office of the ministry of word and sacrament, which would mean you would go to seminary and you get a degree and you'd be official pastor. And at that point, I still thought, I'm not sure if a woman could do that. And the reason I say that is there's some who interpret the scriptures as the man is the head and the woman's under it, and that the woman shouldn't teach, because there's a few passages by the Apostle Paul that talks about that. And so I had to consider if that was true for me. And so from Whitworth and my college days, I went off to serve in a church, not in an ordained position, but to work. And I realized I loved this. I loved ministry. And so I had pastors there who said, "You need to go to seminary." And I prayed about it and I thought, okay, Lord, I'll go, but I won't get ordained. Do you see what I was doing there? I was saying, okay, I'll say yes, but I'm not going to go all the way in, because I still wasn't sure if that was okay with the scriptures and with who I was. Did I even want that responsibility? And so I went off to Regent College. It is a seminary that ordains men and women, but there's people up there who are not okay with women in ministry, which was newer for me, because even as I share with you that I wasn't sure if I should be in ministry, I was okay with you being in ministry. So if you're a woman and you're hearing this, I felt comfortable with you being in ministry. I didn't see anything in the scriptures that said otherwise. Man and woman together are created in the image of God. Man and woman are given gifts. And yes, Paul in his context talks a lot about the difference between women and men. It didn't sit well with my soul that God would create us differently. And so I thought, yeah, I believe that men and women can be in ministry. I just didn't know if I, Heather Smith, could be ordained into ministry. And so I went off to seminary and I began to really pray about this and think about it. And I took classes on preaching, and I would preach, and I realized, I think I'm kind of good at this. Wow, God's given me this gift. Should I do something with that gift? Do I want to bury it in the sand, or do I want to use it? And so I began to preach. And when I preached, people said to me, "The Lord used you to speak to me. You have a gift." And I had to think about that. While in my preaching class with a lot of men, I got my first experience of persecution for being a woman in ministry. I would share ideas about sermon topics and they would ignore me. And then a man would share it and they would listen. And I thought, oh, is this what some people go through as a woman in ministry, not feeling validated for their opinions? And I thought, well, this doesn't feel right. And this doesn't even seem like something that the Lord would have you go through. I didn't feel it comfortable to preach out to these men in my preaching class. I simply was obedient and I kept preaching because I thought, yeah, I'm supposed to be at seminary. Not ready to get ordained yet, but to go forward to be at seminary in these preaching classes. And so I faithfully preached the word in my seminary classes and my preaching lab. And later a man came up to me from that preaching class and he said, "Heather, can I talk to you?" And I said, yeah, let's talk. He goes, "I came into seminary, I came into this preaching class thinking women should not preach." And I said, oh, I kind of knew that from his actions before, but I listened to him and he said, "After hearing you preach, I realized I need to change my view on women in ministry, because I do not believe that God would give you that gift and not want you to use it." And that was a powerful exchange that I had with him and for myself. I realized, oh my goodness, what can the Lord do with me if I'm obedient to faithfully step forward, and why am I afraid to do this? And so I was transformed first with how it is to talk with people about this, of women in ministry, and second, that exchange made me realize I need to go to the scriptures and say, do I full-heartedly believe that women can be in ministry? And so I began to approach the scriptures again. And I started in creation and all the way back to the beginning, going to Genesis. And that made a huge impact on me when I looked in Genesis, and that it was man that is made in the image of God, and woman is made in the image of God. It doesn't say just man is made in the image, but that man and woman together are made in the image of God. And I began to realize, wow, if only men say yes to serving Jesus in the ordained pulpit, I don't think we're getting the full image of Christ, because women too are made in the image of God. And so, for example, at the Lord's Supper, when it's being served, if it's just being served by a man, you're not truly exhibiting the character and nature of God, because it's men and women together serving that I think we see the fullness of the image of God, because God is neither male nor female. And that powerfully hit me, and I thought, I need to say yes full-heartedly to ordained ministry, like I did in this preaching class of getting preparation for ministry so that God can use me. I realized as a woman I have a powerful voice to have. And so I began to realize, yes, women can be in ministry. And those sticky texts that we often hit from the Apostle Paul, I began to realize there's context there. And the Apostle Paul has letters that he have written, and they're his theology books, and I love them. They're Romans and they're Galatians, and those books, they don't go very far into women not being in ministry. In fact, in Galatians, which is one of the main theology texts, Paul talks about how there's neither Jew nor Greek, male nor female, slave nor free. And I realized, oh my goodness, Paul is so for the freedom of women. And so often people go into these pastoral letters where he's talking advice, not theology, about specific situations. And they read theology into it instead of a pastoral heart that he's trying to get reconciliation in a body. And so I began to realize there's context to verses, and that we have to remember that context that was there 2,000 years ago, and we can't take our context now and put into it. So I began to get peace with the scriptures and realize, yes, the scriptures do affirm women and men in ministry together. Just at the same time, I looked at my own experience and began to realize, wow, God has gifted me in ministry with things like coming alongside people in pastoral gifts, with the gift of administration, and with the gift of preaching and proclaiming that. And I wasn't being obedient to Christ if I was bearing that in the sand. And so then it was there at seminary that I realized, yes, I can 100% with faith pursue ministry as a woman and have a powerful ministry in ways that men can't, and to come along men and women and proclaim Christ in that place. I haven't felt called to belittle someone if they believe the opposite. I don't believe that's in the nature of Christ, so I will never do that. We're all on a journey of interpreting the text, and I want to honor people's journeys. And so if you're on that journey, I encourage you to keep digging in, to see Christ in that text, and to go into the original context of what was going on and asking why. And so it's okay if you disagree with my opinions. Please keep searching. We all have a worldview that we bring, and so please bring that and ask Christ to shatter that and to show you his truth. And I believe I only get a glimpse of it, and so I pray that you can find his truth. And I do wholeheartedly believe that men and women together are made in the image of God, and that we are to pursue ministry and the unique gifts that you have. And so maybe you're not a preacher, and that you will be in ministry but not in an ordained ministry. And please do that as a male or a female, for we all can make an impact on the kingdom. And so that's a little bit about my story. Once again, my name's Heather Smith, and I am a minister of Word and Sacrament, faithfully serving the Lord.